bag 114.9K. None other than these two guys. So if you're looking for Wyndham Championship expertise, if you're looking for read the line, you found the right two
Three,
guys. Go on
two,
over.
one, let's go.
152 yards should be just a nice, comfortable 9-iron for him. They're going to go nuts when he hits this thing.
Yo, yo, yo. Welcome in, golf fans of the internet. My name is Joe. My partner next to me is John, and you have stumbled upon the Preferred Lines podcast. This week, we're talking my absolute favorite event on the PGA Tour. No one is going to have more fun on a Wyndham Championship episode. No one is going to bring you this level of expertise, and we can prove it. John, you ready to get into the Wyndham, baby?
Yeah, not just your favorite, my favorite too. I will not be contacting the same Etsy witch this week as I did last year. We were on the bad side of a Cam Young win last year with Nico Echeverria at 100-1 in the final pairing on Sunday. Lesson learned: don't resort to dark magic. Just let nature run its course. I'm not going to intervene. I don't think I'll need to because I think we'll get to it. I think I've done my homework as I always do. I put more effort and research into getting the Wyndham right. I've hit 2 winners on single bullet guarantees since 2021. Aaron Rai being the most recent a couple of years ago. So we've done our homework. We know what we're doing. We have a lot to cover in the world of golf before we get there, and excited to do it with you.
Excited to do it, powered by the good folks over at Read the Line as well. Look, if there was any reason why they bought in to Mr. Hasselbauer and myself, it's because of the Wyndham Championship. Yeah. John absolutely puts nuts on the table, all in, chips to the center on single bullet guys. A guy that is now an announcer on the PGA Tour, by the way, and Kevin Kisner and myself. Let me bring this up. This is an annual rite of passage for the Wyndham Championship, John. Who else do you know that could throw 3 entries in, just duplicate it in DraftKings for the Wyndham, bag 114.9K? None other than these two guys. So if you're looking for Wyndham Championship expertise, if you're looking for Read the Line, you found the right two guys. Go on over and subscribe there. John, let's talk a little bit of Rocket Classic before we get into the Wyndham this week. THOR. What an electric victory. Pin in on 18. Love to see a fellow pin in guy. Michael Thorbjornsen rolls it in up the hill, captures his first PGA Tour victory. It didn't come quite as soon as we were hoping for, maybe with THOR. I don't think the fans of the internet like us were on him this week in abundance like they usually are for Michael Thorbjornsen, but impressive nonetheless. Trajectory move for him. Big time for his career. He gets it done in Detroit.
Yeah, you love to see it. We've both bet him a lot. We've been on the wrong side of some close calls with THOR a few times this year already. He's put himself in the mix, so not surprising to see him get over the hump. And honestly, I think a lot of us thought he would get over the hump sooner, especially seeing how quickly Jackson Koepka did last week. So this felt like a long time coming. It could be floodgates. We can talk about that a little bit more if we think he needed to get that win, see one go through the hoop, and now he's going to be this changed player like Cameron Young did this time last year. We'll see, but just this is one of those instances where you're just happy for the player because he's been close, he's a good kid, a young American talent that you want to see thrive and get on that Ryder Cup team by next year, maybe even the President's Cup this year. So it just opens up a lot of storylines for him and just an easy guy to root for.
Absolutely. Also wanted to mention, heck of a job on the renovation of Detroit Golf Club. I don't know that it was a crazy difference in how it played, but it looked a lot better. Those fescue eyebrows on the bunkers were really cool there. Michael Thorbjornsen got me thinking about TGL, man, because I was there and I posted just a random swing video, and I could post a swing video of almost anybody, but it's just something is different when this guy hits a golf ball with a driver. You saw it on 17, you saw it on 18, and it went nuts on the internet just posting that. First guy of Boston Common Golf Club to get a PGA Tour victory in 2026 is Michael Thorbjornsen. None for Keegan. Technically none for Rory. Yeah. None for Adam Scott. None for Hideki Matsuyama. Right. Michael Thorbjornsen gets it done. Congrats to him on an epic victory. Xander, kind of back. Finished second. Uncompetitive second. What'd you think?
Yeah, like I don't know what to make of it. We talked about last week, like he's really slipping. He's outside the top 10. He's 15 or 16 in the world, trending in the wrong direction. And it's still classic Xander where he finished second, but really at any point did you think he was going to win this tournament? I mean, he might have had a share of the lead at one point, or he came within one of the lead at one point, but he's not this star level intimidating presence on the
Right.
leaderboard. I think that's the issue with Xander right now, but he looks a hell of a lot better than Patrick Cantlay does, his buddy, who put himself in position, and then as soon as we got to the weekend, ejected again. So a disappointing result this week for Cantlay. Encouraging step in the right direction for Xander, I would say this week.
Yeah, I'll give him that. Step in the right direction, probably for Cantlay. A lot for those two guys to play up for. More on that later. But in regards to a couple of players down the stretch there, Davis Riley, Rasmus Højgaard, Michael Brennan, these guys with so much young talent. But I think Colt Knost said it best, like down the stretch there when he was like, they got to learn how to play golf on Sundays. And
Yes.
it's just real, man, because they can play golf and be as good as anybody in the world Monday through Saturday, but put them down the hunt in Sunday. And as we've seen with Michael Thorbjornsen, as we've seen with many of these players, with the exception of Jackson Koiven, who's just special, it takes reps, it takes time. You have to throw your hat in the ring a number of times typically and get burned and understand and learn from it before you can get it across that finish line.
Yeah, I mean, that is the story with Michael Thorbjornsen. I mean, this guy had all the talent in the world, and you thought his moment was going to be the waste management, and he puts it in the water, and he uses that as sort of a teachable moment. And he kind of just said, like, I didn't know how my body was going to react in that moment. Now I know there's a little extra adrenaline that can happen, and he learned from it. And I think that was like what I was hoping to see from Jackson Suber this week, which was like, okay, this guy's mixed at the Canadian Open. He mixed again at the Open. He's getting these valuable reps on Sunday in contention, and he hasn't been ready yet. But you like to see that. And the only way to get that experience is to keep putting yourself in that position. So, eventually guys like Michael Brennan, who now 2 weeks in a row has been in contention on the weekend, just played differently on Sunday than he did all the rest of the week. Obviously, that's nerves, that's adrenaline. So you hope that with experience, these guys are young. As they get more experience, they're going to do what Michael Thorbjornsen did and eventually figure out how to channel those nerves and adrenaline when the pressure is highest.
Yeah, just kind of shifting gears to what's left of the PGA Tour season, right? We have 1 week left. We get the playoffs. Just kind of looking what's ahead for the rest of the year in professional golf, right? We get the Tour Championship. Obviously, we get the build up to Eastlake. A couple events in the fall swing. We love Vidante Villarta as much as anybody, Vedanta World, and in Black Desert is a cool tournament. The DP World Tour has a couple of big events: the Australian Open, the BMW Championship, the Dunhill Links. Of course, we get the President's Cup, which I'm excited to talk to you about in just a second. But, John, the most watched tournament in all of golf from here until the rest of the year of 2026 is probably going to be this internet invitational. If I'm being honest, we had two of the big names get a sponsors invite. Ruffles may have got in. I know Dalkey got a sponsors invite, but just wanted to touch on them. Brad Dalkey finishes dead last in the tournament. Ryan Ruffles beats him by 11 strokes on day one. It feels like when these two guys play each other, they're two of the headliners in the YouTube golf space. Is it a waste of a sponsor's invite to not invite someone who has climbed the ladder the proper way, quote unquote, and to use it on someone like Dalkey who finishes in that position?
Yeah, I think that's been some of the discourse is like, what are we doing here? We're getting YouTube golfers to play in a tournament where there's guys fighting for their careers who need that spot. I don't agree with that take. I definitely think sponsors invite is it exists for the sponsors to do whatever the hell they want with it. If they want their tournament to be the best of the best and they want it to be like a major and you're only playing in here if you're the very best and you have to qualify, then they're not going to invite those people. But if you're spending the levels of capital that the PGA Tour is asking tournament sponsors to put up to own an event, which is in the tens of millions, Those sponsors can do whatever the hell they want to do with the only 2 spots that they have control over. Invite the people that are going to create content. He was creating content after the round
Good
and
on
just
him.
said, like, like, flame me, grill me. I blew it,
Good
because
on him.
that's what he was brought there to do. Like, put content on YouTube and get a different generation watching this tournament who wouldn't otherwise. People probably going to that tournament in the Detroit area that would not have if Brad Dahlke wasn't there. So I absolutely do not fault Rocket whatsoever for inviting him. There were definitely moments even watching the Internet Invitational where you're like, this guy can play. Like, everything he hits is like 300 plus in the fairway, and he's making all these putts. Before the Rocket Classic, he was playing very well in the DP World Tour. So he has game. The difference between a YouTube golfer and a pro week-to-week touring professional is the dispersion in my A game versus my C or D game, right? Like, if you're a touring professional, you're never shooting 80. Your worst round, you're figuring out a way to shoot like 75. And that's where Brad Dahlke's just not a touring professional right now. If he was, and he dedicated it to, like, some of the other YouTube golfers are trying to fully commit to touring, take as many opportunities as they can, go on the Corn Ferry Tour. Our boy James Nicklaus taking that approach, more professional first, but that's what you have to do. You have to get yourself inside the ropes on a week-to-week basis and play with the best to belong there. And I don't think just because Brad Dahlke had a bad week that he doesn't deserve more opportunities in the future. I think he would probably tell you himself, like, it was probably pretty embarrassing to do that because it does delegitimize YouTube golfers a lot when you show up and finish dead last in a PGA Tour event.
Put him in every event in the fall. I don't care.
Yeah.
Just mic'd up.
Well, he'll be in the good
making fun of
invitation.
himself. Like, the PGA Tour literally put out a video, and he was like, had to walk them through all of his shots, and you're gonna be here for a while. He kind of prefaced it with, was very cool out of Brad Dahlke. Okay, John, a lot of other stuff to get to before the Wyndham. I'm gonna try to move as quickly as possible through it for you. Let's talk briefly President's Cup, where the standings are at. But before we do that, you see the kind of polo I'm wearing? This is the type of stuff that keeps you cool out here in the Florida summer. Read the line logo on the sleeve. You see the BD on the chest. If you want to just be casual, t-shirt wear, nice Peruvian cotton pocket tee, you look like John Hasselbauer. You want to compete in the President's Cup or the Ryder Cup, you're going to be wearing B Dratty. The promo code, if you want anything Dratty, is RTL20, 20% off your order. And it's a huge week for them as they are about to unveil the President's Cup uniforms for not only the U.S., they're going to do the outerwear, the polos, the jackets, everything. They're going to do the international team as well. I'm fired up for this release. I'm hoping that the good folks over at Dratty send us something to wear and we can be supporting Team USA proudly here in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, it's been a patriotic year for the sports fan. It started for the Team USA sports fan because it started in January with the Winter Olympics and Team USA hockey team exploding, and then you had the World Cup, and now we're continuing all of that patriotism and the Team USA support that we've all been showing in the other sports. Now it's the golf, our favorite golfers' opportunity to shine in B Dratty.
Absolutely. Okay, let's pull up the who's in, who's out, President's Cup current situation. Here's Team USA. Ben Griffin moves down slightly a little bit. What you really want to pay attention to for those of us who are with us here on YouTube is that number 12 hole. You see there Jackson Koiven is still, even after the updated standings, not quite near this list. Akshay Bhatia kind of holds that spot strong. Xander Schauffele, a big week, maybe move him up a little bit, 11. Justin Thomas going to be competing at the Wyndham Championship. What do you make of Team USA if you're committed to putting Koiven on the team, right? Which we both talked about we are last week. Who's out?
So I still got Akshay out. I mean, I know you're pro Akshay. I was very disappointed in whatever he did. Did he miss the cut this week? I know he wasn't a factor. I think he might have been right on the number. I think he was too. I think he was missed it right on the number. And so just recently he hasn't been himself, and he hasn't shown that same peak level that we saw of him back in March when he felt like a shoe-in after winning the API. So he needs to do more for me. He'll have more chances to do more. He's got plenty of starts ahead of him in the playoffs. He's ranks high enough. That's where I think it gets interesting with Koivu because he's sitting right on the bubble, and we'll talk about that too. But if he doesn't get into the playoffs, Michael Thorbjornsen definitely in the playoffs. Akshay's in the playoffs. Ryan Gerard's in the playoffs. So if you're not seeing any Koivu and he wins, but then goes, let's say T30, then it's not really a slam dunk. And if you get a very high finish or a win from one of these bubble guys, then I think you got to ask the question: is it too early to bring Koivu in?
Yeah, we all want Koivu, but listen, if he can't finish like top 40 this week, he's in serious jeopardy of moving on, especially if one of those guys below him makes a big move. So looking over at the international team, I mean, they're always in this position, John, and more so with what happened in the recent years with Liv, where it feels like the top like 6 to 7 players are pretty strong, and it feels like you could see a pathway to a competitive tournament given the volatility of match play. But then you get down to the 9 through 12 spot, and you get Day, Jarvis, Hisatsune, Nick Taylor. They're so outmatched there. Are there any names that you think could really actually help them in this tournament, and you could see getting a point or two?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, and you said it with Liv, I think the international team suffers so much more in the President's Cup than Team USA. And that's just the way the PGA Tour runs the President's Cup. So there's much more strict bans against the live players. Like it's not even like the captains are like encouraged not to pick the live guys, which is kind of how the Ryder Cup goes.
Yeah.
Don't pick them unless they qualify is basically like what they whisper to them. They are not eligible to play here. So USA can't pick Bryson.
A shame, really.
Yeah.
It
Actually,
hurts them a lot, like not being able to have, Neiman and Cam Smith and like even Lucas Herbert right now with the
yeah.
way he's playing.
Yeah, the three of them would absolutely be on this team.
Yeah.
Do you know, is Reed eligible? Like, can Reed be picked now that he's not on live anymore?
Well, I just think they have to, it has to be so good. I mean, he could technically be picked just as Bryson could be picked. But they'd have to just play their way in through winning like 2 majors, and they're just so far out because the points are so skewed to PGA Tour.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, on the international side, one guy who's not on the right side, and I'm not saying he's a needle mover or anything, but I think you're going to see Griot make this team. He's finished like top 20 the last 4 or 5 weeks. I think he's a good setup again. Like, it's just a crazy disparity in the level of talent we're talking about for guys who might make the international team versus guys who are definitely going to miss the USA team. We're talking about like Patrick Cantlay isn't even on the board on the left. I don't think he deserves to make the USA team, but Emiliano Grillo probably will make the international team. So Team USA is a much bigger favorite. That brings me to a question I want to ask you, which is we know that the USA team dominates the President's Cup and they don't dominate the Ryder Cup. If you're Brent Snedeker, if you're the captain of the Team USA team, is your number one job to field the 12 best players or to grow Team USA sports and develop talent and test guys, take a little bit more risk knowing you have such a greater talent advantage?
I think I'm torn. I think that ultimately the President's Cup is that opportunity to bring young talent and develop them and get them reps in these type of tournaments. I don't think that you necessarily take a ton of chances with the pairings per se. Like you don't need to just roll Koivu out in 4 matches if you bring him, right? Yeah. Get his feet wet, have him feel what it's like to be in the team room. And I think that this is like what we kind of alluded to last time is there is some continuity between Jim Furyk and between Brant Snedeker of using this as an advantage, which they absolutely should be, of getting a trial run before the Ryder Cup. So understanding strategy, understanding kind of developing a team playbook, so to speak, that carries on from this tournament to 2 years from now when we go to Adair Manor, I think it's going to be important for the longevity and the success of this team in that tournament because they're going to win the President's Cup by a lot either way.
That's how I feel too, and when push comes to shove, even if like I'm kind of at the point now where JJ Spawn is deserving, but he's sort of this known commodity where like we know what he did at the Ryder Cup. It was kind of meh. He's not a
Yeah.
personality that's like a presence that you're playing against in match play. He's not a match play riser. And although he has the points, he's high up there. He's like 7th or 8th on the list. I don't necessarily think it's in USA's best interest to pick him over Thorbjornsen or Koiven. We'll see if that could change. Every week when you get into the playoffs, it's like, okay, this is high stakes golf now. If a guy's going to rise, I want to see that. But yeah, I mean, those are the decisions that I think are different when it's the President's Cup versus the Ryder Cup.
Yeah. Same thing. I mean, you could say the same thing that you said about Spawn, honestly, about Ben Griffin. What's he giving you that's going to help you 2 years from now that Michael Thorbjornsen is not, or even that Batia is not, right? What's Ben Griffin giving you that Batia won't be better at 2 years from now than he currently is? It's a fair question, and I think something that they need to be considering. This week, John, ultimately, like, we both love the Wyndham for a number of reasons, and we're going to get to covering that tournament, so bear with us. But this is like the real playoffs. In many ways, this event is almost has the drama and appeal that the FedEx Cup would thirst for. Like the top 70 is what's important, and that's the cutoff this week. I wanted to bring up the number of names competing in the event that are going to be right along that cut line and are in important positions. Now, these are just a lot of the notables, but these are the guys we've been on all year. Jackson Koiven, right there at 70th. He needs a good week because the other guys are coming. You think Keegan Bradley doesn't want to be in the FedEx Cup playoffs? You're dead wrong. Johnny Kiefer, Korn Ferry Tour Player of the Year last year. He wants to get in there. Proven veterans, Day, Wallace, Suber coming up. My guy Denny this week. We're manifesting in the thumbnail. Hopefully that can come to fruition. Tony Finau is way outside the list. Any surprises here, or what do you make of this list of guys and what they have to play for this week in Greensboro?
Yeah, I think Keegan caught me by surprise because I didn't think that he was having like a down year per se. He hasn't really been like mixing a lot, but I thought that he would be pretty safely on. So as far as guys on the outside looking in, Keegan was the most surprising to me. It's funny that Jackson Koiven was 70 going into this week at Detroit and didn't move. Like he basically needs to finish T30, T30 to maintain where he is. And he finished T30 last week. So kind of funny that he's still the bubble boy this week. He's the last man in right now, which creates some really interesting drama going ahead. Like you said, you're not safe if you're really anywhere above 60. And that's why I wrote about this in my preview, but it's not a coincidence. Every single player ranked 55 to 90 is playing this week in the FedEx points list because you have to be here. You've come so close. You played the whole season. You got to make sure that you get yourself in. Only the top 70 make the playoffs now. It used to be 120, and then 20 of those get cut off after the first week. So even if you're inside, you also see pretty good depth this week at the Wyndham Championship of guys who just want to increase their positioning so that they can get themselves to East Lake.
Yeah, and this week is so important, almost more than next week, because it maintains eligibility and pathways for next season. So this is an important week for a lot of these players. Now, John, there's a guy on there, maybe by coincidence, maybe not. Neither of us talked about. This is how you know, folks, that we have turned the corner into being an objective podcast and not just like a homer for our guys. With the help of, some of the services that are out there in today's world, created this graphic, John. This is going to shock some people because this is my boy. But this question has to be asked. Has the Brooks Koepka comeback to the PGA Tour been a complete flop? Did they get what they wanted when they bent the rules in certain aspects to bring him back in hopes to lure a superstar? One top 10 all year, came at the cog. What do you make of this? Like, was this worth it?
It's hard for me to like treat this like a black and white season. Like he makes it, into the playoffs, it's good. He doesn't, it's bad, because you can see where all that red starts right at the Canadian Open coincides with that injury. Yeah. Now, Brooks Koepka has always been riddled with injuries. He's always persevered through injuries, and maybe by the standard he's set for himself, you can be a little bit more critical that this year he was not able to persevere through that when in years past he wasn't. But when I look at the results pre-injury through the CJ Cup, it's not a bad season. Now, a player of his caliber, there's a lot of events here, like opposite field events or secondary events that aren't signatures, where he was the betting favorite in some of these weeks. He was a top 10 to 15 favorite most weeks he teed it up, and he basically played to expectations in those events. A T12 of the Masters is good. Like, that's a sign that we're not far from Brooks's like potential still in 2026. I like the bounce back of a T20 coming off an injury at the Open. But I look at this season and I just say it started pretty good. And the injury bug just kind of got him. What do you think?
I just think that it hasn't been what my expectation level was to see him this far back. And what did I have on the other one? He's at, oh, sorry. What did I have on this one? Brooks Koepka's at 86. That, like, this is a elimination game for Brooks on a course that I don't think is a great fit for him, that he never chose to play during his time, that the only result that I'm seeing is a miscut when he was 2 over par back in 2020 before he left for Live. And we are at the point now where a 5-time major winner that they pushed a lot and moved mountains to bring him back now needs essentially a top 5, probably a top 3 to get into the FedEx Cup playoffs. And he's played a lot of events this season. It's just kind of disappointing for me. I hate to call it a complete flop, and I want to give this more time before I come out with a genuine, just like fire take on it. But I don't love his chances of moving on. And if you would have told me at the beginning of the season that he was going to play this many events and fail to make the top 70, I would have said no way.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. But another thing that I'll say, my kind of expectations for Brooks going into the season is he was starting at the ground level. So he didn't have access to the signature events. And there's so many points just left on the table that he has no access to in the signature events. And I'm pretty sure part of him coming back was like, you can't invite him on a sponsor's invite either to those signatures, or maybe they got rid of the sponsors for the signatures. In years past, they would have found a way to get him in the big events. And this year he just didn't have as much opportunity, which is really just, it like goes to show the other like normal players, the non-major champions, how much they have to grind and how much of an achievement it is to get into the top 70 when you don't have the same opportunities as the stars do who are slotted into each of these signatures.
We're going to do true or false right now, John, but I'm going to give you a bonus, true or false. You can give me a one-word answer here. 36 years old, Brooks Koepka. True or false, Brooks Koepka will win another PGA Tour event in his career?
Yeah, I think you know what? I think he's more likely to win a major than a PGA Tour event, though.
I know. It's so strange, though, given the amount of the ones that he's playing. It is weird. But I have another one for you. Here we go. Bonus, true or false for you, John. Here's my true or false question for you. The most dominant golfer on planet Earth is not Scotty Scheffler. It's Nelly Korda. 4th at Royal Lytham this week, 2 majors this season. She won the U.S. Open. She won the shortened Hilton Grand Vacations tournament. She won the Riviera Maya by like 6 strokes. Nelly's the best in the world. True or false?
I think you have to say true, because Scotty is the world number 1 in major golf, in PGA Tour golf, and he has not looked dominant. He lost to Jackson Coyven last week, only has 1 win this year. So far fewer wins than Nelly. Nelly has won multiple majors this year, right?
Yeah.
So you got to give it to her on that. I'm trying to think of other, maybe you say relative to YouTube golf, you might call Brad Dahlke a dominant golfer. Relative to, I don't know, the amateur golf, like Miles Russell has been very dominant. Relative to collegiate golf, you might call Jackson Coyven dominant. But I think if you just want to pick one player who's just great every single week they tee it up, you have to give it to Nelly.
I think so too. She's proven it this year. 4th place, and it seemed like I don't follow the LPGA as closely as Keith does, who has his picks out and has a write up every single week. You subscribe over to Read the Line. Not only in your newsletter field do you get the complete breakdown of the PGA Tour, you get a separate one, full length email with picks for the LPGA Tour. It just felt like there was like a level of disappointment in a fourth there based on the season that she was having that puts her in rarefied air, like peak Scotty, like Tiger. Fourth place isn't good enough anymore, but an incredible season, and she's certainly right now the top player in the world, in my opinion. John, what's your true or false?
Yeah, and I love that for Nelly. It's been a while since we had like a consensus world number one, like best female golfer who was American. So gonna be a fun Olympics in LA next year. Um, okay, my true or false. Last week we talked about Live, the speculation about there not being a team event. Shortly after we finished recording, it was basically confirmed that's not happening in Michigan, no team event. It seems like Live is on life support. So let's just say Live as we know it won't happen next year. We're ready to just move on from Live. My true or false is there anything akin to the XFL and its brief run as a challenger to the NFL, where we tried it out? We did this like kind of contrarian league, an alternate league, and we tried a bunch of different things. And through it all, it mostly didn't work. But there was one thing about XFL that we kept. The NFL saw and was like, okay, the Sky Cam is actually really sick and it broadcasts the game really well. We're going to keep that. Thank you, XFL. Everything else you tried didn't work. It was trash, but we love the Sky Cam. Is there a thing that Live did, whether the broadcast, the format, the touring schedule, where you're going to say, okay, Live failed, but they did this one thing and I liked it?
I want to just say no.
Okay,
But
false.
that's not true. I'll give you an answer. So there was a thing that they did early on, and I don't know if they stopped this. So I don't like. We talked about it. It's team golf, ain't it? Right? That's not going to be the future. But I think there are elements there where they would run like money matches on YouTube of like the high flyers versus the crushers before the actual tournament, and kind of like Live seemed to embrace this idea of let the players own their own social brand, right? More than the PGA Tour does, and let them do their own content and create the duels and all this kind of stuff. So I wouldn't mind like an offshoot of that. Like I think of how NASCAR kind of has like I don't know, what is it, like Henske or Penske and like Hendrick Motorsports, these like teams within the individual thing. So maybe it's like Team Callaway and we do these matches showcasing the course that they take like a Tuesday round where they do these 9-hole money matches and put them on YouTube and they play for their own quote unquote cash, but really sponsors are putting it up. Just the idea of giving players more control over their personal brand and allowing them more avenues to showcase their personality, because I think that that makes them easier to cover for people on the outside looking in selfishly like us. What about you? Anything you'd bring over?
Yeah, that's a good answer. Yeah, I almost think I've always been a fan of like having the OEMs be your team. So if you're a Callaway athlete, if you're a TaylorMade athlete, that's your people. And when Tommy Fleetwood wins, Rory is happy, and Colin is celebratory too, because they're all
Yeah.
in the same TaylorMade commercials together, and they're going to the same pressers, and they're touring, and they're seeing each other in the fitting truck and all that. So I think outside the ropes, having some sort of team thing is good. Having to track the team leaderboard, never really, like, the stakes never landed for me, so I don't love that. For me, the one thing I liked about Live was just like bringing golf to golf starved countries,
Yeah.
and like clearly Australia needs high stakes golf.
Yeah.
South Africa could use some high stakes golf. Even Korea showed up, had some like cool crowd atmosphere. I would like to see more national opens, and maybe, and because of Live has shown a proof of concept. Like if you bring the stars to Australia, they'll go crazy. They'll pack it. There'll be hundreds of thousands of fans there. So I could probably live without a Bay Current 70-man fall classic if it means like an Asia national open that all the best players are going to all together.
So listen, all in all, when it dies, some good stuff we could take from Live. John, I can't wait any longer. I've been digging through my wizards, my models, doing a little whispering myself, and it's without further ado, it's time. Let's break down the 2026 Wyndham Championship. Let's start with Sedgefield. All right, here we go. Course preview for the 2026 Wyndham Championship, breaking down Greensboro, North Carolina's very own Sedgefield Country Club. One of the shortest, but one of the most demanding and fun tournaments to break down each and every year. And we're proud to do it on behalf of Wolfhammer Golf. They've been collecting a ton of momentum between us, between what Keith and Pat are doing, kind of promoting Wolfhammer. We spoke to them recently. The downloads are absolutely flying in, and people are loving this app. If you go to the golf course and you like to bet on your Saturday game with your friends, and you'd like to do so in a larger group, then it makes it easy to keep track of on a scorecard. Download Wolfhammer Golf. You'll find it all in there. Tell them that Preferred Line sent you. John, give me the breakdown on Sedgefield.
Yeah, Sedgefield. So another par 70 coming off of, well, it's another Donald Ross par 70, actually. So I actually like what we've done with this rejiggering of the schedule. We go from Twin Cities to Detroit Golf Club to here, because they've all got a little bit of something from the week before that carries over this week. So now we've got back-to-back Donnie Ross. We got another Donnie Ross coming at East Lake in a couple weeks. So it's pseudo Donald Ross stretch. When we talk about Donald Ross, we talked about this last week. It's all about putting. The greens are the identity of the course. It requires putting skill, and you go down the list. Everybody who wins here is in two buckets: long-term elite putter or struggling putter who was working on it and really found something over the last several weeks that was then trending on the greens coming into this week. That is exactly how I would describe both Cameron Young and Aaron Rai, who seem to be the two exceptions of winners, because before them, it was your JT Postons, Kevin Kisners, even Jim Herman, who beat Billy Horschel, who was another putting specialist. So you gain your strokes here on the greens by putting, by being able to confidently step over something that's got a spiny, uncomfortable break to it. But because you're a Bermuda specialist or familiar with Carolina golf, or just play this course a lot and really like it, the same archetype of players continue to pop here. That's why I bet with conviction this week. That's why you put a single DFS lineup out with confidence. That's why Denny McCarthy pops here, because he's a great putter. So short, what do you need to know about Sedgefield? You need to be accurate. Yes. You need to be accurate. Like last week, I wanted you to be accurate because they made some efforts with the course, and we assumed that you didn't want to be in the fescue that they were growing out or in the fairway bunkers that they added. This week, it's essential, and you can probably talk about the perils of Bermuda rough better than I can, because you live in Florida. You understand Bermuda rough. I've only played so many rounds in Bermuda rough, but everybody who plays it, who is not used to playing in Bermuda, hates hitting out of Bermuda rough. And that is definitely evident in the stats, because if you miss the fairway, there's a steep penalty here. So you have to play out of the fairway. You have to be an accurate driver. You have to be a great iron player, but particularly from inside 150 yards, so great wedge play. And you have to be a skilled putter, as we talked about. I also think there's a significant importance on comp course history. So I always put in a heavier weight this week on your short Bermuda positional angular courses, and there are actually quite a few of them. Waialae, Sea Island, Harbor Town are the three that pop to me. You can also look at Sawgrass. You can look at Colonial is there. Birkdale, I think, is actually not the worst comp. We talked about Sedgefield as a comp to Birkdale. And then you can look at your Donald Ross courses as well, just for the greens of it. We talked about Detroit Golf Club, Aronimink, where we have the PGA Championship this year. Aaron Rai's 2 wins professionally coming overseas are at Sedgefield and are at Aronimink. So there is some stickiness to the Donald Ross play. That's it. I know, have some thoughts on Sedgefield too. So what did I miss?
Not much, man. I mean, strategy is so important here. And you mentioned angular golf courses. That's the key here. A lot of these holes kind of start with an elevated tee and they kind of play downhill on the tee shot, but then go back uphill into the green. And the importance of being able, some of the beauty and the architectural nuance that Donald Ross had here is making this challenging despite being long. So, there, you're going to get your high end talents like Cameron Young who have a ceiling performance and they're just better than everyone else. So, when they bring their A game, they're going to win. But when you look historically at the list of winners, it's guys who don't mind clubbing down off the tee, guys who understand the importance of angles and playing from the short grass. The Bermuda rough, if it rolls through those fairways that are leaning downhill, it makes it almost impossible to hold many of these greens and at the very least keep it on the correct tier. So playing from those fairways is of the utmost importance. So the number one thing I look at is approach play, then it goes to driving accuracy, and then it just goes to like, can you spike with the putter? Because good putters have a way of separating here historically. When you look at the winners, even that year that like Herman and Horschel were there, like Siwoo was great here because he was so accurate and like had a good putting week until Sunday when he kind of imploded that. So play from the fairway, have a good ball striking week, and you got to find a good guy with a hot putter. The one thing I did realize is, there's been we've had a couple of weeks in a row now where courses have had some pretty substantial changes that we've gone into detail. Sedgefield is untouched. It's the same as what you can expect from previous years. But the tournament director, Bobby Powell, did recently say that the condition is excellent and much better than normal this year. And what I think he means is before this tournament in recent years, it had been very rainy. The course was wet. They played preferred lies all day here. It allowed players to kind of do an easier job of hitting those fairways because it was so soft and the greens were receptive. I do expect some firmer conditions this week based on his expectation alone, which would put an even further emphasis on proper ball striking.
Yeah, 100%. You mentioned, which I think is a really interesting juxtaposition this week, the importance of like clubbing down and strategically working your way through this course. I think the trend that people are seeing and are probably going to chase this week is Jackson Koiven wins 2 weeks ago. Michael Thorbjornsen gets his first career win at 24 years old this week. Who's the next up and coming star? Because all these young stars are taking over. When you approach the board this week, how much are you like writing off guys who don't have good course history here or maybe seeing it for the first time?
I think it depends on the player. It starts with course fit for me, and then course history is additive. Now there are certain players that just do not have, they are not a good course fit, and then if they don't have any course history, then I'm going to take them off. If they do have good course history, but I don't think they're a good fit based on how they're playing right now from a driving accuracy and approach standpoint, then it's also kind of a red line. So I think this tournament, we know what the expectations are. We know what skill sets are rewarded here. We know exactly what to look at, which is going to help us when we kind of assess the odds board in the next segment.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just add final piece on that. My approach on this, exactly as you said, Tom Kim won here in his debut when he was super young. So it can be done, but he's the absolute ideal course fit for what you want to see here too. So you got to look at the player profile above all else.
Let's look at some players right now. All right, the betting board for the 2026 Wyndham Championship. You've made it 43 minutes. Here's what you're here for. Here's the favorites. Defending champion Cameron Young leads the way at 8-1. Off a good finish, Patrick Cantlay comes in at 17-1. We'll mention that these were the first odds released. They just came out about an hour before we were recording this show. So I had some people on Tuesday of last week be like, those aren't the odds. You got to watch this up to date. Actually, you know what? That's a good point. Let me stop for a second. Let me shout somebody out. We don't do shout outs often, but I got a message on Twitter. Jock Levine, shout out Jock Levine, verified, not a bot. Listen to these nice words Jock Levine had to say about us, John. I enjoy watching the pod live from Manchester, UK every week. It cheers me up knowing that your pod is coming, and I wake up at 5, 6 a.m. 6 a.m. in Manchester, England, just to watch this show. You got to be on it early, folks. Shout out, Jock. If you're one of those people from anywhere outside of the U.S. who are watching this show on YouTube, we would absolutely love to hear from you. Drop us a comment. Tell us your name. Tell us where you're from. Okay. Sorry, John. I got distracted, but I was
Love
excited
that.
to see that. Listen to the final words here from Jock. You and John are two of the best in the business. Keep well. Let's have a winning weekend. Let's all win together. You've got Koiven there at 23-1, Thor at 26-1, JT 26-1, Ben Griffin 27-1. John, I have a feeling based on what you were just talking about before we ran this segment that you're not afraid to take one of the guys in their debut here. Are you looking at Jackson Koiven?
I'm not looking at Jackson Koiven.
Okay.
It's actually not his debut. It's his pro debut, but he finished T5 here last year,
Okay.
which is crazy. Shout out to him. So he could play here. We know that. I'm going to tell you right now. Have you read my preview? Do you know who?
No.
Okay,
I
so
don't like to read it before we record.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you right now. There are 5 guys on this page that I think cannot win this week or should not be bet at the numbers that they are. The other player on this page is, in fact, winning. You're guaranteed my Nico Echeverria of this year. I know that wasn't right, but we got pretty close. And some people, you could hedge out of that. You got in a great position. You had a great sweat. I think he birdied the first hole on 18. Then it all went south. But he had a chance last year. Your 2026 Wyndham Championship winner is Ben Griffin.
It is
27 to
earlier
1.
in the show. You didn't say anything.
Well, I had to keep my cards close to the chat. I got to keep my poker face on. Ben Griffin is winning this week. He is trending. He's checking every box that I look for, and I look for the exact same criteria every single year. Are you an elite putter? Absolutely. Are you a great, consistent iron player? And is the strength of your iron game inside 150 yards? 100% has been the entire career of Ben Griffin. Now, here's the interesting one. The bounce back. That's 5 of the last 6 winners of this tournament have either missed the cut or finished worse than 60th in their most recent start before the Wyndham Championship. Okay. My theory for that is that this is such a specific test that you write off whatever other course they're playing because all you're thinking is hit this fairway, hit this green, make these putts. If you've missed a cut, you can go back home and practice. The home game, very important. Cameron Young, Webb Simpson, past winners, Wake Forest Demon Deacons, Wake Forest, not very far from Greensboro. And Griffin grew up in Chapel Hill, went to college in Chapel Hill, less than an hour's drive from Greensboro to get to Sedgefield. And that all has manifested in top 15 finishes in 3 of his first 4 appearances at the Wyndham Championship. So sometimes when I go out there and I put myself on a limb and I guarantee you a winner, I'll give you 100 to 1 guy like Nico last year because he checks the same boxes. But if I see the winner and he's on the first page, and the universe tells me he's winning this week, I'm not just going to walk it back and pick somebody else because this guy's too much of a favorite. There's only one winner every week. This week, It happens to be Ben Griffin.
All right, let me judge Judy here for a second. How concerned are you that Ben Griffin is only hitting 56%, 57% of fairways this season, well below tour average? Are you think he's good enough to overcome that on a course that demands accuracy off the tee when he's lost strokes off the tee now in his last 4?
Yes. Now, here's the thing, and we talk about this as a singular test. So it's not enough to just look at the blanket off the tee numbers. You got to look at the comp courses, and you got to look at the strokes gained ball striking on courses under 7,200 yards, aka short courses, which is a filter that we can do with our friends over at BetSperts. And he ranks top 5 in comp course history. He ranks number 1 in Donald Ross history.
Ooh, off the tee?
Okay. No, total.
Okay.
Total. And a lot of that is from the putting, which is the most important thing that carries over from one Ross course to another. This guy was top 15 at Aronimink, which has very little in common with Detroit Golf Club, where he's also posted more top 15s than any other PGA Tour event, played on a Donald Ross course. Eastlake, he was right in the mix last year. He hasn't played. He didn't play Pinehurst, I don't think. So we don't know what he would have done there. But anytime you put Benny Griff on a Donald Ross course, he shows up, except last week. But you know what? A miscut on the number. He was 2 under. He wasn't going to, if you make the cut on the number, you probably weren't going to win anyway. So if you started out slow, I'd rather you get those 2 extra days of prep, go home, because he's coming home. He's coming home to Carolina. And I also, I mentioned Webb and Cameron Young because of the Wake Forest thing. But if we zoom out a little bit just to Carolina, now you're talking about Kevin Kisner is a Carolina guy who's won here. JT Poston is a Carolina guy who's won here. Lucas Glover is a Carolina guy who's won here. So there's something to be said about the familiarity of staying home, understanding the agronomy, living with this Bermuda. He grew up with this Bermuda. The smell of the Bermuda in the air is going to carry him to victory this week.
Shame on me, John, for thinking that you hadn't turned over every single possible stone. We're not even going to talk about, I didn't bet anyone on the top of the board, so we're not even going to talk about the other guys because you just absolutely cooked on Ben Griffin and gave us the full rundown. Yeah, I'm not interested in any of those other odds. Let's hit page 2 because I've got 3 names here and I'm trying to bet 2 of them. And this is where I need your help. This is where we like to consult each other before the lines move. Starting in the 30s to 43 to 1, Mav McNeely, Hideki, Gerard, Rye, Koepka, Brennan, Bradley, English, Mitchell, Tom Kim, Matt Fitzpatrick. Let me give you the 3 I'm thinking. Let's start with Aaron Rye. Aaron Rye was sent over from a European lab to win the Wyndham Championship. This guy is perfectly engineered for this golf course. The fairways, the precision, the ability which he showcased to win here in 2024 at 18 under. And he's coming off a top 5 here last year. Rye's on the hot list. Tom Kim's on the hot list. Tom Kim's Wyndham victory in 2022 remains one of like the ultimate like staples of I've arrived as a kid and here we go. 4 wins since then. He shot a final round 61 in 2022, finished at 20 under par, secured his PGA Tour card, and now we've gotten Tom Him ever since then. He comes back. He's back in form, just won the Scottish Open. He arrives back to Greensboro with another victory on his mind. And 5 wins at his age would put him in a very rare group of players. So the ceiling is there certainly for Tom Kim. And the other one is Hideki. And when Hideki is ball striking it like he is currently and arrives here in this type of form, the numbers, when they speak to you in that way, put Hideki in a different talent tier of player than these other guys on the board. This is a major championship caliber winner, particularly at a field where iron play is dominant. He's coming off 2 great finishes. He's got the President's Cup on his mind for this year. Driver obviously is always like the issue for Hideki, but I think this course dictates that he clubbed down quite a bit, and Hideki hits that 5 wood. He hits his long irons as good as any player, and he's currently in form, and I think that ceiling is there. Those are my 3, John. If you had to eliminate one of those 3, Kim, Hideki, Aaron Rye, who would you eliminate?
Yeah, I would probably go Rye, and the reason I'm going to go Rye, as somebody who bet Rye here when he won a couple of years ago, is the putter was trending at the time, and Rye to me is a little bit of a streaky putter, and he's working on something, and he's either working to find it or he's working to keep it, is how I would describe Aaron Rye on the greens, because it ebbs and flows a lot, and you could tell he had it going into Wyndham when he won. He had nothing the first half of the year. And then for the month before, it was all popping on the greens, getting progressively better. I worry a little bit about the state of his putter right now. So that would be my only reason. Because T Degree, and as you said, designed in a lab, makes a ton of sense. Hideki, I like. I saw our good pal Ron, Detroit resident, did an awesome job covering
Yes, you did. Shout out
The
Ron.
Rocket Classic from every angle. He posted some interesting stats about Hideki putting on Donald Ross greens, like just always having a tough go figuring them out. So that gives me a little bit of a pause, but his accuracy has been fantastic the last month. That was why I bet him at the Rocket, because I thought that it was going to be a little bit more of an accuracy premium. So the accuracy has not been the issue for him, which is scary because usually that's what holds him back. So I think I will still be interested in Hideki. I want to take a closer look at those putting numbers. And then, yeah, Tom Kim, I think, like we said, he's played here, won in his debut, withdrew. I don't know for what exact reason his last time he came back, but a good course fit. I actually like a few other names on this board too. We mentioned our loyal following in Manchester. We just go a little bit east of Manchester to Sheffield. That's where our friends, the Fitzpatricks, are coming in here from. I drove through Sheffield actually last fall. I did a little England road trip. Drove up to.
I'm going to England in a month. I got to get some spots from you.
Oh, get out of here. Yeah, we stayed at Chatsworth House and then we flew home from Manchester. We drove through Sheffield on the way up. So we will have to compare notes on our England itineraries. But I'm interested in Alex Fitzpatrick. He is a very accurate driver. I don't believe he's played here before, but he's kind of just doing everything well. And he's done it like that's surprising to me that he's played as well as he has off the jump, because he kind of got thrown the gauntlet immediately of like the Blue Monster and US Opens, where like that's not really his game. His game is accuracy. He's not the longest hitter, but he will play from the fairway. I think it's a pretty good number. I've just been impressed with him this season. His win alongside his brother did come on Bermuda greens at TPC Louisiana. So I think he's okay on Bermuda. I'm not the most confident in it because we haven't seen a ton from him, but I like that. And I like Gerard. I don't love the number, but I like him for a lot of the same reasons I like Ben Griffin. The two of them are buddies. They do a lot of things together. They play well in the same areas. They're both Tar Heels. He finished strong. I had a top 20 on him. I appreciate how he finished today to cash the backdoor top 20. So he found a little something. The ball striking was definitely suspect for most of the week and disappointing in general. But he's a great putter. And when he's on, he is a great ball striker. So I don't like that number, but I do like the fit for Gerard.
Yeah, I think I'm a little hurt because I bet him last week and felt really good about it. There was a time on Friday when he had tied for the lead and had like 12 holes left and the other guys were in the house. And I'm like, he could go up 3. He's got his whole back 9 left, and things just ultimately went the other way. But you could see it coming after Thursday. I put the tweet out. It was the second most strokes gained on the greens in a single round on the PGA Tour this season. The most a player has gained in a single round this season on the PGA Tour happened the week prior when Michael Kim shot 59. So second best putting round of the year. We know the sustainability is unlikely in those scenarios for Ryan Gerard, but 34-1, I wish he was a little bit higher.
Yeah.
I have no interest in Koepka. We talked about him. Keegan. These numbers just don't do it for me on these guys who I don't think are good course fits.
I agree.
Okay. Let's look at page 3. A lot of guys here with a ton to play for. Starting in the 50-1 range, you get Mac Meisner and Jordan Spieth. God, man, a couple of years ago, you're looking at this, you're like, same price, Meisner and Jordan Spieth.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Doug Gim, speaking of guys who come through on a nice top 20 for me down the stretch, 54-1 on the Gim Reaper. Matt Wallace played well again. Alex Smalley, some Duke lineage there. All the way down to past champion JT Poston at 68-1, and the rookie Ben James there at the same price. Kind of small. I don't know if you can read all those, John, but anyone here or in this range kind of stick out to you that you want to point out?
Yeah, I feel like Meisner's price is interesting because he sticks out at 50. The course history is great. I mean, I think he was runner-up last year. I think he was top 12 the year before that. So he plays this course well. Form's fine. 50 is probably the shortest we've seen of Meisner in a non-opposite field event. So like Gerard, it's like I like what he's doing, but that number is a little tough to stomach. And then Ben Coles is the other one who, like, I think he'll be as popular as Ben Coles has ever been. 60 is right at that threshold where I feel okay about betting Ben Coles at that number. We just always see this guy lead the field every single week in driving accuracy. He is playing from the middle of the fairway. Just drop the ball there. It's always there. He's automatic in that aspect of his game. and the irons are good, and the putter is trending. So like, it's not always that easy. We haven't really seen that dog out of him on Sunday, but if it's the Thorbjornsen approach and you gain experience and you learn from it, you can't draw up a better course for Ben Coles than this one. So I'll probably be there on him. Alex Smalley, you mentioned the Duke thing. He is a member at Sedgefield Country Club, so he knows this course very well. He's mixed here once. The course history is not as great as I would like to see, but you mentioned the Donald Ross connection. Aronimink, best we've ever seen Alex Smalley ever play was at Aronimink on a Donald Ross course where you got to be accurate.
Good pull.
And that was, he's kind of let his foot off the gas a little bit, but I feel like Alex Smalley is the type of guy who's just, he's got it or he doesn't. And the form doesn't matter so much. If he likes the course, he's going to show up. He's a great putter. And he is driving the ball very accurately. So I will be betting Alex Smalley. I think he's the right course fit. And has been mixing a lot more this year. Other quick ones, Blades Brown was in the mix at a Corn Ferry event. He actually prioritized playing the Corn Ferry event over the PGA Tour event last week. He got in, but he needed the Corn Ferry points. So he's just always in the mix, whether it's a PGA Tour or Corn Ferry. Every time he tees it up, he's top 20ing. Good course fit again, so I like him. I'll stop there. I mean, there's a lot of guys I like on this page, but those are the ones that jump out to me at first.
Okay. For me, looked at Sung Jae, haven't played it, on the radar. I do have my biggest position of the week, as you see this show, and you mentioned the number is going to move, and it's on Ben Coles. He's going to go off at 45-1. Currently 60-1 over on DK, and suck me dry because I'm in on that number, dude. You actually picked the words out of my mouth. You were like, you couldn't hand pick a better course on the PGA Tour for Ben Coles. Yes, this is it. Now the course history does not speak to that, but the pride of Cary, North Carolina, an hour down the road, is returning home with something to prove, and he couldn't have dreamt up a better course and be coming into this event with the type of momentum and form that is required to actually win a PGA Tour event. Got to learn how to play on Sundays. We talked about it earlier in the week. We talked about Thorbjornsen's reps. There's only one way to do it, and it's to keep putting yourself there, and he's done that 3 out of the last 4 starts in the top 15. I ran an initial model over on BetSperts. Model is posted right now. Ben Coles was number 1. I said, I got to make some adjustments. I got to redo this. I'm going to run it again. Something's wrong, John. Something has gone wrong in the system. I tweaked the model. I did it a little bit differently. I used my normal Wyndham thing. I did it again. He's 4th. There's no getting around it. Ben Coles is a tremendous fit, leads the field in driving accuracy. He is 2nd in approach, and he's got 6 straight top 30s. He's playing in awesome form. If you're watching this on Sunday night or Monday morning, like our guy Jock over in Manchester, get on Coles. He's going to be in the mix.
Yes. The other thing, he's played here 5 times. 2 of those were over 13 years ago. I don't know how or why. You mentioned the Carolina thing. Maybe that's why he got a local invite. He's been a horrible putter his whole career until this year. So when I mentioned the sudden emergence of trending putting and that category that Cameron Young and Aaron Rai and even Lucas Glover I would put in that category, suddenly not good putters, but at that moment they were trending. That's Ben Coles right now.
Yeah. Absolutely. Let's go to page slide number 4. Bunch of guys here right on the list of the top 70 that we talked about earlier in the show. I'm not going to read through them all, but Johnny Kiefer's there at 78-1. Tony Finau at 82. Our guy Suber needs another good week at 86-1. Nick Taylor needs a good week. Denny McCarthy, 105-1. I've bet it. The spectrum of results is there, and the spike for Denny is so dependent upon the putter, which sucks because you think it's completely unpredictable, right? But he's gained 3 strokes plus putting in 3 of his last 7 starts. Just 2 starts ago, he gained 7.5. It is predictive. Putting is predictive for Denny, and he has always done really well reading the greens at Sedgefield. Averages plus 3.5 plus gained across 7 starts here, 3 top 15s. T11 last year. I had him on the podcast and said, what is your favorite course on the PGA Tour? Denny McCarthy, without hesitation, Sedgefield Country Club was the answer. We're taking him at 105 to 1. I don't have anyone else. I kind of like my boy Suber here. Johnny Kiefer, I'm interested in. Give me a name or two in the long shot category.
Yeah, it's Griot for me on this page. I won't be betting too many of these guys, but I really like Griot. The trend, he's super trending right now. It's just top 20 after top 20. And it's all because the putter is flipped around, which you need to see that. If you haven't figured it out with the putter at this stage of the season and you go to a Donald Ross course, you're probably not going to find it. But Emiliano Griot at the end of the year with the President's Cup looming, with the playoffs looming, he is stepping up. The ball striking looks great. He only wins on these positional courses, his last one being at Colonial. I like 90. I think that will come down. So I'm going to take that right now. 90 on Griot. I'm going to take that 60 on Coles. I'm going to take that 27 on Ben Griffin. We will see how else we fill out the board, but those are three definites I'm definitely backing this week.
I'm trying to check on. Okay, so Nick Taylor is really hot with the putter. He's not putting up great results. How's his Wyndham course history? But he was one that I was interested in. Okay, miscut T10 back in 2021. Yeah, it's just Denny on this page for me, but some names like that are kind of surprising, like triple digits on Straka here. Did not think like a positional short course you would see these type of numbers.
Yeah.
Andrew Novak, given where he was at last year and playing pretty well in North Carolina at Heritage, 125 to 1. Mackenzie Hughes on a shorter course that, you can get a hot putter. Like these are the type of names that as I continue to research throughout the week may pop up on one of our betting cards this week that you cannot miss for the Wyndham Championship. They, as always, will be out on Wednesday afternoon. My power rankings for the top 10 contenders at Wyndham for Golf Digest will be out on Monday. John, you mentioned everything you need to know about the Wyndham Championship and Sedgefield Country Club. Already posted, already live. Ben Griffin is the headliner there.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I still got to figure out what shot I'm going to do live from the Tout House this week. I mean, I could certainly do a Kisner up and down on 18 in the playoff. There's a lot to choose. I mean, I love this tournament. So there's a lot that we can do. There was a moment where Justin Thomas needed to chip in on 18 to make the playoffs and he lipped out. So I might try to do that one. Good memories of this course. I'm excited. I know it's just the Wyndham Championship, but it's like one of the most underrated weeks of the year because it's so consequential for all these guys' careers.
The event, I'll say it again, the event before the playoffs is better than the playoffs. Cannot miss the Wyndham Championship this week. John, you were awesome as always this week. Make sure you subscribe over to Read the Line for what's coming up this fall. We've got some huge news about to drop that is on the precipice. I am not good at keeping secrets. I don't know how much longer I can do it. So, Keith, if you're watching, it's time to get moving. It's time to roll that stuff out. We need to talk about it. All right. We got stuff we need to get off our chest. But before we do that, we're going to hit a winner at the Wyndham Championship. John's telling you it's Ben Griffin. I'm telling you it's Ben Coles. A week of Ben's in Greensboro doesn't sound too bad. We'll catch you next week on Preferred Lines. Thanks to everyone. Give us a comment who you think is going to win. We will catch you next week for the start of the FedEx Cup playoffs. On behalf of John, I'm Joe. We're out of here. Peace.